This summer, Instacart presents famous summer flavors coming to your front door. Or pool. Or hotel.
Your grocery delivery has arrived, sir.
That was faster than room service.
No violins in the lobby.
Oh, seriously? Anyway, sit back, relax, and get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes. Starring your favorite snacks, drinks, and more. Download Instacart for free delivery on your first 3 orders. Rated H for hungry audiences. Offer valid for a limited time. Minimum $10 per order. Excludes restaurants. Additional terms and fees apply.
We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to This Song Is Yours, a music podcast where we chat to a new guest each week, talk about their life and creative endeavours, and talk to them about some of the music they love. Our show works by chatting to our guests about music, but also getting them to make you a playlist of the songs they love. You can find the link to our playlist in the show notes. Welcome to episode 42. I'm your host, Simon Fink. Our guest today is Homeschool. The indie rocker from Brooklyn, New York has just released his debut EP, entitled Homeschool, Book 1. In today's episode, we're talking with Tom from the band about the new EP, the power of collaboration, and the soothing tones of Christian Lee Hutson. Here we go. Our guest today performs under the pseudonym Homeschool. Their debut EP, entitled Homeschool, Book 1, is out now through due process. Please welcome to This Song Is Yours from the band Homeschool, Tom D'Agustino. Good morning, Tom. Oh, good evening, sorry.
Yeah. Good morning to you.
Where are you joining us from today, Tom?
I'm located in Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, very nice. What's it like there this evening?
It's pretty nice. It was the first warm day, like really warm day we've had in a while. So it was like 80 degrees. I only went outside like once today though, which was kind of a bummer, but it seems like it should hold up for a while. It's been kind of like rainy and gray for a few weeks. So
is that quite normal for, where are we, middle of April? Is that kind of standard?
Yeah, it's like our springtime. So it's very, at least on the East Coast, it just like rains through April. April showers bring May flowers is a very common saying that we use. But yeah, I think starting May, it should hopefully rain less and just actually be straight up spring, which I desperately need.
Beautiful. That well, we are very close to May, so hopefully those flowers are literally days away.
Yeah.
Now, congratulations on the debut EP, Homeschool Book 1. It is finally out now in the world. Congratulations.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I'm glad it's finally out.
It was written and recorded, I believe, just a little bit before the pandemic. So you've kind of been sitting with these songs for a while. How does it feel to kind of finally be out now?
It feels really good. As you said, we recorded a bunch of songs in San Diego in California, probably about like 3 months before like lockdown. So then we had them and we went through a process of like mixing and all that, which actually bled into lockdown a bit. But then from there, we were like, what are we going to do? Because there's the kind of thing, I'm sure, you're familiar with the music industry. Like it didn't really seem clear that things were like definitely not going to happen until like a month or two in. I know it was kind of different in Australia, maybe the timing, but we, it was like a good month or two into it where I was like, I mean, maybe touring will come back and maybe I could put this out, like whatever. So then we eventually just had to be like, nah, this is not going to work. So that's kind of where we came up with the idea of like, what is an interesting way to release these songs? That's not just a traditional album, like where you drop 3 singles, once a month, and then in 3 months you put the thing out. Cause we're like, we wanted to stretch it out, first of all, cause we were introducing this new project. And it was also like, can we kind of keep people entertained and interested with the music, in lieu of touring, and like kind of keep up a steady profile and kind of, show people like on a song by song basis, like where this is headed, which I actually prefer, because, when you put out, you get like 3 singles and then you drop the whole album and then it's kind of over. You kind of just, if you're lucky, you'll promote it and, do interviews like these, I guess, and then tour on it forever. But you kind of, the feeling of getting to like show people and like birth it into the world is very quick. So
with the way that like Spotify, Apple Music, whichever streaming service you want to kind of nominate, with how you can release music these days, do you think that it kind of is going towards a format where, you know, it doesn't have to be the 3 singles in the album, then 3 singles in the album. You kind of can just do whatever you want to? Definitely, yeah. I think, I mean, there's so many different examples of it. Like I love, like, who immediately comes to mind are bands like Big Thief, or like King Gizzard, who clearly just do not, they just have care. Music. They're so prolific and they're like, I don't give a fuck. Like, we're just going to put music out. And if you're looking at it, I guess, from like a marketing business, whatever, like that, it's clearly fine for them. They're just super talented and they put out music. I think for me, I write a fair amount, but I don't, like, I couldn't release, or maybe I could, I never tried, but I don't think I would be comfortable releasing like 3 albums in a year. Right. So it's like the album format, the 1 album every year or so for me has kind of worked in the past. But now I think it's just like, I would love to just put out a song, kind of as I make them. And if they're connected to like an EP, or if you want to throw them all together on an album later, like after the fact, I'm down for that too. But it's been fun kind of just, you know, putting stuff out on a consistent basis. Yeah, definitely. The EP, it is mainly just yourself, but it was also quite collaborative. You've got guests like Samia, Barty Strange, Alyssa. Was the intention when you began recording it to have it like such a collaborative affair, or did it just kind of happen organically as you went by? That's a good question. I mean, we've definitely collaborated with Samia before, and like, you know, Samia and I have written together both on her album and mine, and so that was kind of just a song that we had made together, or like I wrote it and I was like, I feel like Samia could just like crush the last half of this. I feel like she should just come in. So I invited her over and she just, of course, dropped like gold all over it. And then, you know, from there, yeah, I think from that relationship with her, that definitely opened my eyes, where it's like, they don't have to be in your band in order to make music together, which seems super obvious maybe on the outside. But for me, it's kind of like, especially kind of pivoting from a band to a more solo project, it kind of felt like there was these like weird rules about who could play on what, and like, you know, sharing songwriting responsibilities and stuff. But what's cool about this Homeschool thing, and I owe this a lot to my managers like Zach Slater and Tom Winkler, they're very big on collaborating with other artists, because they can tell that it gets something different out of me just as a writer. But also you just make those connections with people, and I don't know, I think it just, like, a lot of magic happens, and I'm falling in love with that process. So like, even with Bartiz kind of just taking that song and remixing it and like throwing all this stuff all over it, and having Arlisa contribute as well, I love that, because it's just like, I get such a different understanding of what the songs, what they can be, and like what, you know, something I didn't quite notice that like Bartiz is like pulling out from, you know, the depths and like showcasing. It's just a very interesting, like, creative thing to see. Yeah, the remix that Bartiz did, it is, I almost didn't recognize this song, only just because I feel sometimes when you traditionally think of a remix, it is maybe just like a bit of a 4 on the floor drum beat kind of behind the original song, whereas he's totally reinvented it. When you got it back, I guess, what were you expecting? I had no idea what to expect, and that's why I was so excited about it, because, you know, I had been shown Bartiz's music like very close, like not like I was a new fan pretty much. Like I had not been super familiar with his stuff. And then I listened to his album and I was like, holy shit, like there's like 7 different genres in this album. And it's not like gimmicky or too out there. It was like, he just weaves in and out of all of these different creative spaces and does it like expertly. Like I'd be curious to see if he actually is like, you know,
super well versed in all of those genres that he's like borrowing from or like reinventing, because it seems like he is. But I think basically Zach was like, this guy's incredible, and like he'll remix the shit out of this if you just give it to him. And I was like, I'm totally down. And we just gave it to him, and he took like a month or two, and then he just sent us the mix, and we were blown away. Because like I wasn't expecting kind of just like the classic, he edits my vocals around and adds like a drum machine or something. I knew he was going to be more creative than that, but I didn't know he was going to, I don't know. It's like you don't know something unless you've seen it for the first time. That's like kind of how it felt. And yeah, it was pretty clear to everyone that I showed it to. And the first time we heard it, we were all like, whoa, this dude is like, this guy knows what he's doing. So yeah. Yeah, I love that guy.
Smartest Man, the track that we were talking about, I read that the original Catalyst was from, I believe you were babysitting a few years ago, and that one of the children kind of had questions in relation to like their, maybe not their humanity, but like in terms of who they were as a person.
Like he was basically, I babysat these two kids for like a year or two leading up actually to COVID. I had to stop because of that. And we spent so much time together, you know, especially over like the summer and stuff. We would just be like playing sports or like, you know, getting pizza and ice cream and just hanging out. So it's a lot of like, and he's smart too. He's like a 10-year-old kid, very intelligent. And we would kind of just like, you know, trade when we weren't like playing Nerf War and like pretending to be ninjas. We would like trade back and forth these like more like metaphysical conversations. And one time I'm making him dinner and he was just like, do you think I'm good? And I was like, what do you mean, like good at soccer or something? He's like, no, like, do you think I'm like a good kid, like a good person? And I just remember being like, whoa, like I certainly don't remember thinking that at that age. But then it also made me think like, I think every child has a very strong sense of like right and wrong, and not the bullshit right and wrong of like, you know, don't play with that or like don't fight your brother. Like I think kids can really, really intuit like on a deep level, like if something is morally good or not. They might not have the language to describe it, but I do think that's like an innate human quality that tends to get more muddled and, you know, perverted as you get older, you know? So to me, it was just a very kind of refreshing question, albeit like a pretty jarring one to hear from a kid. And that just made me think about, I don't know, like if we live in a world where this kid is questioning his morality and like our current president at the time isn't, like, what does that say about like the state of things? Not to say that song's like super political or whatever, but it was definitely like a jumping off point to just ask a bunch of questions.
Yeah, no, that's very cool. The song itself, musically, it does kind of have, I guess maybe there's elements of it that are similar to maybe like a modern Neutral Milk Hotel or Girls in terms of like the musicality to it. When you are songwriting, do you usually find that your lyrical content comes first, or that you'll work out a melody and kind of a musical structure before you add words?
Yeah. Words are always very weird for me because I like writing, you know, like prose, and I like writing a lot of poetry, but when I'm writing song lyrics, it's way less, that feels more like an intuitive thing. So I try not to like think about what the song is going to be about lyrically before I write it. I try to focus on like what I want the mood of the song to be. I mean, to be honest, I try not to premeditate anything, because then I just end up disappointing myself, or I'm like, oh wait, I was going to write like a happy song and now it's sad, or like vice versa. So now what I try to do is just not write at all. Because if I don't write, then eventually I'll have to, just as like an urge kind of thing. So if I can get to that point, then typically some sort of music will come out, right? Like a melody, or like I'm playing the guitar and then like things just start working. And if I'm in a really good space, then it's like anything I'm saying, like the first couple sentences will be like, oh, okay, this is what I'm thinking. It's kind of like in therapy. Like if you're laying on the couch and your therapist is asking you like, you know, what did you eat for breakfast? And then you start like crying about your upbringing or something. It's like clearly something was cooking in your head. So I think that's why a lot of people, or maybe a lot of songwriters, think that they kind of use it as like a therapeutic outlet, because, you know, you're just kind of probing delicately like your unconscious and trying to see what'll come out.
Yeah, of course. As you mentioned before, it is the first EP from Homeschool, but it's not your first kind of foray into music. You were previously in the band Active Bird Community, and I'm sure other bands before that. What was your original kind of draw to music as a kid or a teenager?
This season, Instacart has your back to school. As in, they've got your back to school lunch favorites like snack packs and fresh fruit. And they've got your back to school supplies like backpacks, binders, and pencils. And they've got your back when your kid casually tells you they have a huge school project due tomorrow. Let's face it, we were all that kid. So first, call your parents to say I'm sorry, and then download the Instacart app to get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes all school year long. Get a $0 delivery fee with your first 3 orders while supplies last. Minimum $10 an order. Additional terms apply.
This is an ad by BetterHelp. What are your self-care non-negotiables? It's hard to make time for the things that keep you healthy, but being consistent with self-care is like working a muscle. And when life gets crazy, that muscle keeps you strong. Therapy is the ultimate self-care, and BetterHelp makes it easy to get started with affordable online sessions you can do from anywhere. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com today to get 10% off your first month.
I don't know. I started writing songs when I was probably in like 4th or 5th grade. So I was ironically enough, I was probably the age of the kid that I babysat. So when I started asking myself those kinds of bigger questions, but I don't know. I think a big part of it was, you know, the upbringing that I had was was up and down, to say the least. So, you know, kind of being alone in my room and experimenting with music, and on a more kind of base level, just exploring and experimenting with sound, I think I was able to, you know, kind of create a little world. The same kind of playing I would do in the backyard with my neighbors, I could do that with music kind of in my room. And through that experimenting and stuff, it just really like excited me. I also liked listening to the radio and like whatever CDs my parents had. So it definitely seemed like magic, and it also seemed like really cool. So I was like, this is just the perfect combination. It's like, if I can learn how to play that guitar, like people will think I'm awesome, which is like probably how it started. Very soon realized that that's not the case. But then, you know, the more like finger painty kind of experimenting, goofing around in private, it just gave me a lot of, I don't know, like it was a way for my imagination to kind of run free. And, you know, I try to get back to that space when I write now. It's hard, but, you know, I think it's kind of like the eternal struggle of someone who's trying to do something creative, is like they just wish that they were like a fucking kid again doing it. So, yeah.
I feel like there is less filter when you are that age. So there's kind of less judgment from yourself in terms of what you can create and what you can't.
You don't even know what to judge people by. You know what I mean? You haven't really developed any of your own biases yet, or like your own stupid opinions. Like you're not, you know, pseudo intellectual and like annoying. So you're kind of just like, you're taking chances and you don't really care. And like this kid that I would babysit, like he was just dirty all the time. And I would have to be like, dude, you got to brush your teeth. Like, we got to throw you in the shower. Like you have ice cream all over your forehead. And he was so genuinely like, why does that matter? Like, I do not care. Like, don't bother me with it. I don't care. And like, I was exactly the same way. And I think, that's when I got introduced to music, which I think is cool. Because if I started writing songs like as a 20-year-old, like it would be so pretentious and like scared.
No, that's very fair. The EP, just talking about being creative and kind of things along that line, the EP does come along with like a physical collection of poems and photos and drawings. When you are, I know that some people kind of have the ability to, or have that feeling like when they write music or they play music, they also can, not synesthesia. Yeah, not exactly that, but like when you are writing, can you kind of, do you picture the visuals, or do visuals come into play when you're kind of listening back to what you're writing?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I don't think I do. I think it's weird. It's like, I think the only visual thing that I have, especially if I like to write like by demoing. So like layering different instruments and recording just in a very simple way. So in that sense, I like picturing what the music looks like, which sounds kind of weird, but like I'm not picturing really like colors or like people or themes. I'm mostly just like seeing what the melody looks like in my brain. I don't know. It's more of like a spatial thing. Like I'm feeling where the bass is in my ears, or like where the drums, like the panning of it. So I'm kind of focused on that, which I like, because I like to paint too, and I like to write, and I like to act too. I've been doing some acting this year, but music to me is unique because you're dealing with like space and like dimension, and it's sonic, and it's this whole other thing that's, at least for me, it has nothing to do with color or anything else at the outset. It's like its own thing. That might be different for other artists. I'm sure people like see purple when the song is going well or something, but like for me, it's kind of like its own thing.
Yeah. No, we were speaking to some people who didn't necessarily see color, but I think like certain images from their memory kind of like would be brought back up when playing. It was, I don't know how to quite explain that, but
it's kind of, I think the whole point is like you're writing a song because you can't explain it. You know, you can't really talk about it to a certain degree. So you're like, I could just fucking sing it for you, and then we could both have an experience. But that's cool. Yeah, synesthesia is like so trippy. That's so wild.
It does kind of.
I feel like that would freak me out. Like, I wonder if that's something that like you develop. Like, if I were to develop synesthesia, I would probably go insane or think I was like incredibly intoxicated.
Well, I think if you were born with it, it would kind of be normal. Whereas if you woke up tomorrow and then had it, you would think you're crazy almost.
Right. Like if all the crayons in the crayon box just start screaming at you or something, and you're just like, what? Like, no.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a little more nuanced than that, but
I've read that in other press, you've said that the song "Smartest Man" can, like, it kind of takes on a few different meanings. Just talking about, I guess, each person having a different interpretation of things. That it kind of can go between like the topic of maturity, responsibility, and like challenging traditional masculinity. Do you think that it is, I don't know, we kind of touched on it before, but like that being able to express yourself in a lyrical form is easier than being able to talk about it or being able to have a conversation with someone?
That's a good question. I think for me, I tend to try to rationalize things, or like put things in like little boxes of meaning so I can easily understand it for myself, and then also like disseminate it to people, you know, which I think is a huge result of like a liberal arts education. But what I like about songwriting is that, at least for me, you can't do that. You can't assault it with rationality. You can't, even for me, I can't like premeditate what it's going to be about. It's not like a thesis. It comes from a different place. So if it's going well, it's this kind of invitation. You're kind of coaxing out like I was saying before, like your unconscious, or like the part of you that is very delicate and like does not have any rules and doesn't have any, isn't trying to sound cool or whatever. And it's just kind of raw emotion. And then when I'm in that space, things start to happen. And just because I speak in a certain way and I read certain things, like I'm sure that informs the actual language that comes out. But it's really just like these little balls of feelings that roll out, and then, sometimes it doesn't make sense. So I'll kind of try to sculpt it a little bit to give it like a face and stuff. But, I think that's a really good point. Like I think that's why I write music, is because I can't, it's different than having a conversation, or it's different than, being in an argument, it's its own thing. It helps. It helps me.
Yeah, no, definitely. Now Homeschool is signed to an Australian label, at the moment. And obviously with COVID, there's a few different bits and pieces going on, but at some point, possibly in the next year or so, can we expect to see you on our shores playing some shows?
I would absolutely love to do that so much. I know I have friends who have done it in the past, and a lot of my favorite bands are from there. So it's just like, I would love to do it. Obviously, I don't have like a planned schedule to do it yet, but I'm fully vaccinated and I play songs all day, so I'm like ready to do it. But yeah, I hope that happens soon. A part of me is really scared though to go on the road again. I toured a bunch with my old band in the past, and it was so fun. And it even got to a point where it was like monotonous. You know what I mean? It was just like almost like a day job. It was like that, that much, but it was so long ago. And after, living in a little nook for like a year, it's weird to imagine just being around that many people, and then also being like vulnerable around that many people, and then like performing. Like, I have no idea, because you guys can like fully tour there now, right? You guys are
pretty much. I think the only difference is that it's mainly seated, even like for shows that would usually be standing on like a mosh pit, it's mainly seated. But other than that, yeah, people can tour. Yeah,
that's crazy. I wonder, have you talked to any artists that have talked about that kind of like re-entry into that lifestyle? Because that's crazy.
Yeah, we have with some. We had London Grammar on a few weeks ago, and they Hannah was talking about being able to go back out and I guess kind of ramping up, because as you said, you've been like in like an apartment or a house with just yourself or your loved ones for a year, and then to go from like 1 to 2 people to like hundreds or however many, like it's a quick jump. It's not gradual,
right?
And it is quite daunting.
Yeah, so that's definitely how I feel about it. So yeah, I'm if that is on the horizon, like I think I need to take like some time to mentally prepare, because it sounds like it would be great. Like, yeah, like I get to see all these people again, and it would be, but just I can tell, I know myself well enough to be like, that would be jarring.
Yeah, no, that's very fair. Has New York opened up at all? Is there any kind of shows or touring going on there?
The governor of New York has, as you know or may not know, has proven himself to be a feckless and evil man. But he basically he got caught doing a bunch of shady shit, to say the least. And shortly after that, I could be butchering the timeline of this, he was just like, we're going to open up venues to like minimum capacity. And that's like that's how I interpreted it, as like, just throwing a bone to some people. But I think no one that I know is going to shows, but I think venues are slowly, it's very limited capacity. I think they're allowed to. And even today, I don't know if you have noticed today, but like a bunch of bands have been posting like tour dates. Like I think, who was it? Well, there's that Lucy Dacus tour that got announced like last week. That's with Bartiz. I would love to go see that. and I think Soccer Mommy announced a tour today. So like it's all for the fall, I think.
Yeah, it seems like it's slowly kind of they're gone back to planning shows because I think in a few months that it will be.
Yeah, they're banking on
which
enough
is very
people.
exciting.
Yeah, they're banking on enough people being vaccinated. So hopefully that happens.
I think that we have shows, but our rollout of the vaccination has been horrible, whereas I think the US has done quite well with the vaccination rollout. So I think that's probably why you'll see that you'll have more shows than we do soon.
Yeah, I mean, it's impossible to tell. You know, I'm sure most countries feel like it's a shit show the entire time. But at least more and more people that I know are like, oh, I'm fully vaccinated. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So it's like the circle of people in which I, know it's getting more promising.
Yeah. Which is good.
Yeah.
That's very good. Just lastly, Tom, we usually chat to, I guess, about what they're listening to at the moment. Is there a certain record or a few records that are getting a thorough spin in your apartment?
Yeah. It's funny. I do this. My partner, Julia, we don't have the same music taste, which is normally fine. And I actually love that because if we both knew the same things about the same artists all the time, it'd just be really boring conversations. But the consequence of that is my listening style is like, I don't listen to lots of different kinds of music. I will listen to one song or one album for like a month straight, just on repeat over and over and over again. Or then I'll like isolate one song that's like my new favorite song from that album, like of the week. And then I just repeat it like over and over again. And she walks around just like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, this is crazy. Again? What's this again? So the album I've been doing that to is Beginners by Christian Lee Hutson. It's just
great album.
So good. And I'm late to the party on that one, I'm sure, but I listened to it through once and I was just like, yeah, this is good. This is kind of like the music I would expect from this guy. Just seems like his vibe would be this sound. But then I was like really listening to it and I was like, this is fucking like really good. And then I felt it like this feeling when I know I like something, it's like something's crawling up my back and then just like kind of gets me, like I'm trapped. And then I've been blasting it over and over again. So right now my favorite song on that record is Lose This Number. It's like every time I listen to it, I'm like, this is just the best song I've ever heard. And then like next week, I'm sure it'll be a different song on that album. But yeah, I gotta listen to like different stuff and like have a healthier diet because it's like you can't just eat the same meal every day,
That being said, that album is particularly good.
It's delicious. Yeah.
Yeah. It's if it's a Christian Lee Hutson diet, you're not doing anything wrong. So that's fine.
You're good.
Tom, thank you very much for joining us today.
Dude.
I do appreciate your time and all the best on Homeschool Book One. And hopefully we'll see you in Australia.
Yeah, I hope so. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
And that's our show. A massive thank you to Tom D'Agustino for his time. The new EP, Homeschool Book One, is out now. We've left links in the show notes to their website if you'd like to purchase the EP and the book. We want to give a quick shout out to Tom's dad, Stephen, and an extra special shout out to Sarah at Due Process for helping out with today's interview. You can find a link to our Spotify playlist in the show notes, where you'll be able to listen to all of our guests' picks. If you like this show, please subscribe wherever you get your pods and stay up to date when new episodes are released. We release new shows each Thursday and Friday morning with guest playlists streaming on Spotify at the same time. You can follow the Players profile on Spotify. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Until next week, cheers.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
I'm Kristen.
And I'm Jen from the I Mom So Hard podcast.
Now listen, we don't want to brag, but yes, we are moms. We're average moms.
Below average sometimes.
But we're not just moms.
Yeah, we don't want you to think that we're just moms. And we're not just supermodels either. We're not just pieces of meat.
That's right. We're not even close.
Yeah.
But we are comedians and we're also best friends.
We're also best-selling authors.
And television writers.
We created a viral web series.
With over 300 million views.
Okay,
What's
that's
up?
bragging.
Who's bragging?
Bragging,
And we were in our
actually.
swimsuits. Again, not supermodels.
We're also podcasters.
Are we podcasting right now?
Not right now, but we have been podcasting for 3 years. We're bringing laughs every Tuesday to women and moms everywhere.
And one dude who's a sophomore in college, his name's Greg, whatever, he messaged us and made me feel cool.
So nice. Amazing. Please listen to the I Mom So Hard podcast on Acast.
Woo!
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.